So Wellington City did
24th
sign
of
up,
November.
so they're just not on their page at the moment. They have signed it. It's just not on their the Free Fares page. So obviously this is, I think, we've heard quite a lot through the submissions, and there was one very powerful submission in there as well. I don't think I need to actually introduce any more. I might just go straight to questions, Tim. Question or yep.
So, question. This is clearly lobbying central government to fund this. I'm just clarifying that. So that's
Yes.
okay, because there wasn't mention about and would that include, or could we discuss with regards to looking at as Councillor Keogh mentioned, a trial period, which seems logical that it would be a calendar year with the start of students, etc. I mean, I'm just asking, is that a possibility? So first question is, it is definitely about lobbying central government for funding rather than the local government?
Yes.
And could we ask them to look at mentioning a trial period? Because it's not mentioned in here. So, okay.
Yeah.
Supported.
So what is our link, and who is our link, or what is the link between the collective and ourselves?
So Nathaniel had put me onto one contact who was the director of policy at the Anglican Church. That's a liaison point with the collective. That's the person that I have been speaking to, but I'm hoping that Nathaniel or Mike could provide further information about their links.
Well, yeah. I think we need to remember this is not council itself advocating to it. It's a group, and obviously the group have a lot of support behind them. I'm sure it doesn't hurt to say, have you considered a trial? I don't think it's up to us to tell them to put forward a trial as an option. So look, if you want to do that as an amendment.
No. I'm just when we sign up to something, usually we have a conduit into it. There is a connection of some sort for whatever reason, and so what, is it? I mean, is it yourself? I don't know.
I have been having contact with people within the collective, so I'm assuming
because I wouldn't want to make them. Yeah. So I prefer the conduit from us going into that group to suggest maybe that's an option, because they are the ones making the contact with or lobbying central government or whatever. So I'm just saying, is that an option? So,
Aaron.
Mike, I'd be happy to move an amendment or an addition. It would be more that the government urgently consider a trial for a 1 year period, and starting in time for the next tertiary year. So it starts at the end of January, like was asked for by the people. We can only ask for it, and they can say yay or nay, but to see if it can happen. They'd only have to commit for 1 year, and it's going to get people on buses or it's not. But at least we would go and ask for the territories that want to pick it up. Some probably might not be able to. What's that, sorry?
Aaron, so I'm just trying to work out who you are wanting to go to the government. Are you wanting this group so you want to ask this group to go to the government with their campaign to actually ask for a trial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you just get some wording for your amendment?
Okay.
And email it to Nathaniel. Yeah.
How can we alter someone else's?
No, no, we're not going to.
Can't.
We've got to see Aaron's wording, but I don't think he's telling them to alter it. He's suggesting something. Yeah.
Because there's no timeline on here, Pauline, so the government could consider this for years. There's a mood for change, especially in their communities now, so why would we not jump on that and try and make it happen? Jump on a bus.
Anyhow, is there any other... Mel?
So if we were to do what Aaron says and the government isn't able to do that in time for next year, would that mean nothing would happen?
Yeah. It's a question we can't actually answer.
Yeah,
it's something that Aaron's obviously wants to put forward as an amendment, and has the ability to do that.
And this, could we clarify who the conduit into this group for the council is? Because I think that's important too. So there's some direction. Is that, if it's yourself, Mike?
Yeah,
as the chair?
I'm happy to take up that role.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you can note that down. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't include people over 25 who've maybe gone back to Hegley to do night class or something like that?
Tertiary students.
They're not tertiary, they're going to Hegley College, they're secondary students, or, well, I don't know what the class is, but it's not, it doesn't appear.
They'd most likely potentially be community service card holders, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they
I
may
think
not.
they would struggle to. I think that most likely they would fall into one of those categories. Yeah.
I'm just flagging there might be
Yeah.
other groups.
Yeah. The community service card holder normally captures a wide range of people that don't have a lot of money.
We should have timed you.
7. 8 I'll do, I'm not too sure. 7 I'll put it as an amendment. But 8 I'll fold into the substantive. Yeah, are you happy with that, Yanni? That the 8 just becomes part of the resolution, and we'll put Aaron's amendment as an amendment. Okay. It's number 7. No, I'm going to put it as an amendment. Or what's the general view of people?
We're just asking. The government might be open.
So the nature of saying if we recommend it to them, they're likely to say, well, that's the recommendation, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I've got no problems with it.
The whole thing.
The thing is, it's
Microphone.
Separately, instead of
Sarah,
recommending to the-
microphone.
It is on. Sorry, thank you. Instead of us asking the Free Affairs campaign, because they've already got a set thing that other councils have already signed up to, and other organisations who would then need to reconsider it, we could just ask government to trial it. You know, we could say, yes, we'll sign up to the Free Fares thing, and separately, let's just send a thing to the government saying, let's trial Free Fares starting next year, rather than going through the other thing, because that's just like, you know, if we're doing a trial, it just means all the other councils have to go and reconsider what they've already signed up to. Yeah. Should we do it directly to government?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. I just didn't want to do that straight off the bat and steal the glory from the Free Fares campaign, because it's their campaigin that.
I just think that it's awkward asking other councils to go back and relook at something that's not what they've already signed up for.
awkward asking the government for money.
Yeah,
Someone else knows.
Yeah,
We could, you know,
I
request that
don't-
the
I
government
personally
do a
don't think-
trial while they're considering.
I
the
don't think
permanent-
we should
No.
ask them to trial it. I think we should be trying to ask them to commence it as soon as possible. I don't think there needs to be a
Well,
1-year trial.
yeah, but I think the government's trying to be a little bit fiscally prudent at the moment. So a trial's a lot easier to commit to because it's just 1 year of funding, and then they can head forward into it and look at the numbers, because the numbers will either stack up or they won't. In some areas, they might be really good, so they might go, going forward, we'll concentrate more here. Others,
Anyhow, I'm going to put it as an amendment. And you're, yep.
I'd be happy on Sarah's suggestion that we do that as the amendment, Mike, but also as a council, we write separately to the government for them to bring it in next year as a council. Just leave as is. Okay.
All right, let's debate this. Aaron, do you want to start with your... We'll debate everything, but just noting that we will be putting in as an amendment first.
Just to my colleagues, the reason I put the amendment was based on the strength of today's deputations, and I thought LaBelle's one was very strong, and of course so was the universities, and the point that they're making is that they believe that the time for change is now, that people will get in behind this, and the numbers that they're claiming will get on buses, I'd be happy to be proven wrong, because I think what they believe will happen is a lot better than what I believe will happen, but I would love to be proved wrong at the end of next year, look back at this program and go, wow, that's made a huge difference to public transport. So we should stop making things into a plan and it's going to happen in the future, it'll eventually happen, we'll lobby for this, lobby for that. Just get on and do it. Let's be the council that starts to make things happen and happen now when people ask for it. In the big scheme of things, this wouldn't be that expensive for the government to trial and get behind, and I think they'd be right for the picking.
Pauline?
Yeah, look, I'm really pleased, Aaron, that you're supporting this. It's great and a great initiative. And I think a trial is a good idea. It makes it more palatable for someone to get behind it. I really commend this group for getting themselves organised and putting this up as more power in numbers. So for us to get in behind this, I think is a really, really good signal that we're serious about our climate change targets. But also the fact that those submissions really struck a chord with me. The fact that we can easily forget what a couple of dollars means to people out there, and having access to the bus to make big changes in their lives is significant. And so we really need to support these people to be able to access the bus for free would be fantastic. I mean, there's no such thing as free, but we can collectively fund this nationally. So, yeah, I'll support the amendment. I think it's a good one, and I'll support the substantive, and congratulations to this group again.
Thank you. Sarah?
Kia ora. 1.8 million New Zealanders don't have a full driver's licence, and for those aged 16 and above who are able to get one, 800,000 New Zealanders are without. That's 21% of the eligible population. There's many reasons for this, but enabling access for those who don't drive and cannot afford bus travel is a clear equity issue. AA figures show that the cost of owning a small car is around $4,000 a year, a huge cost on struggling families. We know that free fares change behaviour. Those aged over 65 have had free, time-limited off-peak, free public transport since 2008. And for the most part, they choose to travel when it's free and not when there's a charge, avoiding peak hours. In the first year of the scheme, 1.4 million car journeys were replaced with bus ones. Imagine that across a broader section of society. I get why Aaron wants a trial, but I think that he's wrong. We need to move straight to this being put in permanently and not being a trial. There is ample evidence already to show that free fares work, and targeting those who are most disadvantaged in society, those most in need, will make a huge impact on the number of bus journeys taken, the number of car journeys that are not taken, and it will really support those who are struggling, who need it the most, especially with rising house prices. Thank you.
Tim?
Thank you. I think we're talking about this the wrong way. We're talking about the end users. What we're asking here is for the government to back its own signing of climate change, flying to Glasgow to talk to and with those leaders, etc. And the best way to do that is ask central government to take a small step, to take a year trial, which by all the figures that have been quoted today and by others will totally support this first move into a longer journey, which is absolutely essential for climate change. So that is what we are really truly asking to do, and I think we should be supporting. I think government, once they've done this year trial, if they choose to take it up, will have no choice but to continue it, because that's where the real figures will be. To ask them to take a broad brush stroke right across the country to supply free public transport to tertiary students, I think at the moment, fiscally, is just a step too far. What we need is a small step to prove that the bigger step is essential, and I totally support this. I think it's a clever move and a good move, so I'll support it. Thank you.
Anne.
Kia ora. I think it's great that we've got a united voice on this so far. It feels really good. So it's what this group is asking us to do is to support their advocacy for this, which I'm delighted to do. I think, I'm not sure if we need Aaron's amendments, but happy to support, because it's great to have that collective voice coming through. That's the power of unified message, and we really want to add our weight to what they're trying to do here, which is going to have a great benefit to many.
Jimmy.
I support this one, but because this collective group is advocating group, particular on those, is kind of the weakest group in the community. Those students are under 25 years of age or community service card holders. So that's very, very reasonable. And also the particular, they are advocating those issues totally compliant and consistent with the council's strategy, bylaw, policy, or objective, etc. Particularly, we heard there are three kind of the overall the deputations. One equity, the other one is consistent with the council climate change, reduce carbon emission, and also to ease our traffic congestion, etc. All the reasonable, but permanently, I fully support just continually for those free bus, the kind of fare, rather than just 1 year. But this kind of trial is a procedure. Maybe the every city, because they are the group, advocating group is the nationwide. Maybe the city or district is a different situation. But my goal still should be is permanent, rather than just 1 year. But try is a procedure. Your majority, our fellow councillors agree. I write to go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Jay.
Really happy to support this today, given the amount of carbon emissions that transport is responsible for. It's beholden upon us as a city council to do any and everything to reduce that number. But I'm also cognizant that that we are just asking someone else to do something, and that we do need to not, I guess, pat ourselves on the back too much, although we should be proud of ourselves and we should support this. But that doesn't mean, and it's not an excuse for our own inaction, and there's more things we could be doing, and the shuttle is an example of that, rapid mass public transport is another, and
So is item 11 today.
Pauline.
that was actually the end of what I said.
Did she just shut you? Leanne.
I am going to support the amendment for exactly the reason that Anne set out. With the amendment, we get a unanimous position of council, and I think that is a very strong position for us to offer today. And I think that will be welcomed by the Aotearoa Collective for Public Transport Equity. The equity argument is very compelling, and it can only be enhanced by a trial, and so there is no harm in the amendment. One of the things that I was going to mention though was that this alone is not enough. That we do need to have frequency, we do need to have reliability, and we do need to have speed. And it has to be the most efficient and effective way to get from A to B in order to get that transformational change in public transport, which is why I will be supporting a notice of motion that's coming before council next week, which will line up with ECAN on some of the work that we need to be doing in order to support PT Futures. So I'm very supportive of this resolution today.
Andrew.
Thank you. Let's not lose sight of the fact that this resolution is about supporting a campaign. It's not about developing policy of our own. It's not about developing a campaign of our own. It's supporting a campaign which is already in place. It's a campaign that, in my view, is advocating some very positive outcomes, and for that reason we should be supporting it. It's about equity, it's about climate change action, and of course we all know the role of transport in carbon emissions. It's potentially about city vibrancy, safety, equity, accessibility, and it's pretty clear that it'll make a huge difference to those people that would benefit from free fares. And we heard from some of those people this morning, and I thank them for coming along, sharing their stories and sharing their views with us. And I'd also acknowledge the people that have put this campaign together and that are promoting it so well. So there is a danger, and it's been pointed out, that the responsibility or the call to responsibility for funding free fares could fall between a crack between local and central government. But that's not a reason for not making the request. And whilst it wouldn't be an acceptable outcome, it's not a reason for not supporting this campaign. I believe that central government considering funding free fares would be the right thing to do. I support anything we can do to get more people onto buses, to get more people out of their single occupancy motor vehicles, to make public transport more attractive, more viable, more popular, and to get more people using it. And this is one thing that seeks to do that, and for that reason I support it. Now, it's good to hear wider support around the table supporting action in public transport than sometimes we do, and that brings me to the amendment. Early action's good action, and this amendment simply recommends a suggestion to the group for their consideration in the context of their wider campaign. So I don't necessarily see this as wanting a trial or not wanting a trial. It's just suggesting to the group that they consider the benefit of asking for a trial in the overall context of their campaign. That's up to them. We're just making a suggestion. I'm sure they'll consider that in the context of the campaign and what they're trying to achieve, and therefore I see no harm in it at all. And that's the reason that I'll be supporting the resolution and the amendment today.
Mel.
Look, I'd like to do a bit of research, and I had found some papers, but I'm not going to quote them, but they do basically say that free fares do open up bus travel and make it a default mode of transport, especially for young people across the world. And the deputation this morning was completely compelling. I'm willing to support any initiative that helps to reduce inequity, that increases the ability of those with less means to be connected to both people they know and the services that they require, and that will reduce reliance on cars and assist in our ambitions to mitigate and adapt to climate change. In time, I'd like to see those who might be able to access free fares extended as well to people such as adults undertaking secondary school studies who may not fit the other criteria of having a community services card or maybe older than 25. In addition to what Leanne said, which was really good, I think the other thing we need that's required to increase bus patronage with the frequency is that we need enough bus drivers to make sure all the routes have the current frequency of buses and not reduce them further. So that's something that's been in the news, obviously. And regarding Councillor Kearns' amendment, at first I wasn't inclined to support it because, quoting him, he said they should get on and do it, so therefore a trial probably isn't required. But I'm a team player and I'll vote for it if it's going to result in a unanimous vote for this notice of motion.
Yanni. Sam, do you want to speak to this? Or?
the only thing I was going to say is I probably agree with Andrew in a sense. It's a campaign that we're saying potentially get involved in, and I know we've got a campaign coming to council next week over 3 water reform, so I hope every councillor gives the same support that we're about to do today.
Thanks, Sam. Johanny.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really supportive of this. This has been something that I have previously tried to get council to look at, and I think the reality is that you've heard many of the reasons why this makes sense, but the fact is in Christchurch and in Canterbury, our car use has been growing at a much greater rate than people using public transport. So unless we're prepared to do something radically different, we're not going to change for the environmental outcomes that we desire. And so I think free fares is absolutely one of the fundamental components to looking at getting more people taking public transport. But I think I did want to support some of the comments that have been made by the Mayor that there are other things that we also need to be focused on. And the headline last week was nearly 1 in 3 Christchurch residents face a lengthy bus ride to get to their doctor, with lower income locals the most locked out. You recall when we did the PT Futures business case that some of us are arguing that cutting the bus routes in the poorest parts of our city, while we're spending zillions of dollars expanding bus priority to the growth areas, was inequitable. We have to take a much more holistic approach to public transport as a city, not just looking at the growth areas, but also people's ability to access it locally, particularly those people who need it the most. And unfortunately, previous governments and regional councils have seen public transport as a private, profit-making, competitive industry where they've contracted out to private companies to make profits off, rather than deliver services for the good of local communities. And it's really disappointing to see that the bus routes are now being cut back in terms of frequency because of a driver shortage. And you can't help but think, what was the impact of ECAN and NZTA taking away contracts from Red Bus and giving it effectively from a public company to a private Canadian pension fund that runs it through an Australian company. It's simply public transport run to make a profit, and that structure has to stop. And I do understand government are making some changes around the PTOM funding model. So I think this is a really important aspect of it in terms of the fare structure, but we also need to address the other barriers around providing routes in parts of the city that need it, and also the competitive funding environment that it currently operates in. But I'm really happy to advocate for this and to support the advocacy for it. I note that Wellington has been funded by Waka Kotahi to do a trial on the weekends and with the National Ticketing Service, something that we've also been asked to do, and we don't seem to have had any support from NZTA or Waka Kotahi. So yeah, let's support this, let's get behind it, let's try and do something different to encourage more people to take public transport who need it the most.
Thanks, Gianni. Celeste.
Yeah, I'm just sort of echoing pretty much what everyone else has said, but effectively supporting this campaign is about demonstrating our commitment to reducing emissions and addressing also the barriers to cost-effective travel for a range of people, and particularly students and low-income earners. And echoing Sarah's comment, there's also already a scheme that is targeted at gold card holders, and that we all know has been incredibly popular, and there's been really strong uptake, so there's no reason to think this would be any different. I don't support the amendment for the reason that the climate emergency is in a trial, and it's not going to be over in a year, and we need courageous action on the scale our climate needs. So I think that we should be setting the message that we should be using every technique and tool and that we have to push for strong action going forward into the future. And I can't see the reason why we would be pulling back on one of the levers. So I'm looking forward to seeing this go ahead.
Phil.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm certainly going to support all of this. We've got nothing to lose by doing this, but I feel we should be working with ECAN for the $2 bus ride trial for everybody, because then everyone gets part of the action. It would get more people on buses, it would change the way they think about it, and which would then resolve result in less congestion. So I'll be supporting this, both the amendment and the substantive. Thank you.
Sorry, you've already spoken, haven't you, Paul? No, sorry. Thank you. Just want to say I won't be supporting the amendment. However, if it does pass, I will support it when it becomes part of the substantive. The reason, firstly, why I don't want to support the amendment is actually I feel that it actually weakens what this group is trying to achieve. They clearly state in their submission that they want this implemented now. So this point on actually trying to do this commencing in time for 2022 academic year is irrelevant, because that's actually what they're trying to do. Bringing in a trial actually potentially is just a way to end it sooner than what this group wants. And it is correct what people are saying. We need a step change in what we do, and that requires actually a permanent direction in how we run and fund and charge for public transport. We know that there are a number of barriers for public transport users, and cost is one barrier. It's not the only barrier, but it is a very it's a big barrier for a number of people that are transport poor, and we really need to provide true alternatives for transport when it comes to getting people around. When we look at the climate emergency we currently face, and even with the growing population and the congestion that's caused by a lot of people driving cars, the more people we get into bus actually helps productivity. Why we would actually want to try and, I guess, weaken what this collective is trying to achieve is, I'm not too sure I support everything that they are aiming to advocate to the government for, and so that's one of the reasons why I think we shouldn't actually approve the amendment. And I understand a lot of you have indicated your support, but I just want to realise that actually the amendment, supporting the amendment, is trying to weaken what this group is actually trying to achieve. What they want is actually to have transport equity now and ongoing transport equity. We know one of the biggest challenges for our climate change transition is going to become a just transition. We can't trial these things. We need to actually have a step change approach. We need the government, who are talking a lot of words, to actually step up and actually start putting action in places they need to put action, and public transport is one of those places. On that note, Aaron, do you have a seconder for your amendment? Tim seconded it. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Aye. Opposed? All right. Sorry. Could I just... No's. Just no's for the... Okay, that's... Yeah. Jimmy, Jake, self, Sarah and Celeste. Mel, were you up or down? Were you no or yes for this?
I am surprisingly.
Okay. I'll put, that's now part of the substantive. I'll now put the whole lot, including the amendment. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against? Carried.